General Thomas Jones stood at the edge of the council hall's observation deck, staring down at Earth. The view, breathtaking in its clarity, made his stomach churn. The planet's once vivid blues and greens were dulled under the sterile glow of the Galactic Council's orbital station. He clenched his fist behind his back as the droning voice of Counselor Ragazol filled the chamber. The integration of Earth into the civilized world's pact is a momentous occasion, Ragazol declared, his translucent skin shifting with hues of self-satisfaction. Yet, it is imperative that humanity cast off its barbaric tendencies. Violence, reckless pursuits, and unruly independence have no place among enlightened species. Jones' jaw tightened as murmurs of assent rippled through the chamber, a blend of alien delegates and the human dignitaries who had bent the knee. He turned to face Ragazol, towering in his crystalline robes, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with superiority. Jones had seen those eyes before, on commanders too confident of their victory. "Our people have complied," Ambassador Reynolds said from his place beside Jones, his voice brittle with exhaustion. "Earth has made the necessary adjustments to align with Council regulations. Compliance is not enough," Ragazol interrupted, his voice sharp. "We require transformation. Only then will humanity shed its primitive ways." Jones's hands itched for the weight of his service blade, long since confiscated. Transformation. The word rang in his ears as Ragazol listed the latest restrictions: hunting bans, dismantling of military forces, prohibitions on physical contests deemed unnecessary aggression. Every decree seemed designed to strip away not just humanity's culture, but its spirit. When the meeting adjourned, Jones strode through the station's antiseptic corridors, Reynolds struggling to keep up. "We're outnumbered, Thomas," Reynolds whispered, his face pale. "Defiance means annihilation, and submission means extinction," Jones growled. He returned to his quarters, a Spartan room with nothing personal beyond a single hollow frame of his late brother, a survivalist who had thrived in Earth's untamed wilderness until the Council's edicts outlawed such lifestyles. The memory of his brother, vibrant and free, was a sharp contrast to the suffocating compliance the Council demanded. The next day, Jones descended to Earth under the guise of a goodwill tour. He visited urban centers where towering alien structures loomed over human cities, their spires symbols of dominance. In every face he saw, factory workers under surveillance, children playing sanitized games. There was a dullness, a loss of something essential. His tour concluded at a Council-operated rehabilitation center. There, individuals who had resisted integration were re-educated. Among the detainees, he spotted a familiar face: Sergeant Sam Cole, one of his most loyal men during the Earth Defense Wars. Jones's request to speak with Cole was granted, though an alien guard remained in the room. Cole, emaciated but defiant, met Jones's gaze. "They think they've broken us," Cole muttered, his voice low. "But we're not done, sir. Not by a long shot." The guard stepped forward, but Jones raised a hand. "Enough," he said firmly, though his heart raced. He leaned in, his voice barely audible. "Hold the line, Sergeant." As Jones left, the guard's faceless visor turned toward him, lingering. Later that night, in his private quarters, Ragazol's voice echoed in Jones's mind. Transformation. Humanity had once faced extinction and adapted to every challenge. Now, the Council sought to erase that very adaptability, to mold Earth into something unrecognizable. The reports came daily. Arrests of survivalists training in secret, underground fight rings uncovered, hunters imprisoned for refusing to surrender their craft. Each incident was met with harsher crackdowns, but each was also a flicker of resistance. The breaking point came 2 weeks later, during a broadcasted execution of rebel leaders. One man's dying words pierced the enforced silence. "You can't erase us," he shouted before his voice was cut off. The broadcast ended, but Jones had seen enough. The man's defiance, his refusal to bow even in the face of death, ignited something long dormant. Jones knew then that compliance would no longer suffice. Not for him and not for Earth. He activated an encrypted communicator hidden among his belongings. The signal bounced through countless relays before connecting to an old contact. A gruff voice answered. "Thomas Jones," the man said, his tone a mix of surprise and suspicion. "It's time," Jones replied. The line went silent, then a slow exhale. "You're sure?" "Positive. They've gone too far." As the call ended, Jones stared out the window at Earth's surface below. The Council believed they had tamed humanity. They had no idea what was coming. The night air over Earth's desolate countryside carried a chill, but General Thomas Jones barely noticed. He crouched in the shadows of a crumbling farmhouse, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon for the glow of alien patrol lights. Behind him, a small group of figures waited silently, each of them trained to stillness but radiating the tension of men forced into desperation. Jones's voice, low and firm, broke the silence. "They'll sweep through here in under 2 minutes. Hold steady. We need to observe their pattern." The men nodded, their breaths barely audible. Among them was Sergeant Sam Cole, newly freed from the Council's clutches. Cole's gaunt face was taut with concentration, his hands gripping a crude weapon fashioned from salvaged scrap. It wasn't much, but Jones had seen such tools in the right hands turn into instruments of revolution. The faint hum of anti-grav engines grew louder. A pair of alien drones, sleek and insectal, skimmed the ground, their luminescent sensors sweeping for signs of life. The patrol passed without deviation, just as Jones had calculated. He waited another 30 seconds before standing. "Let's move," he ordered, his voice cutting through the tension. They slipped into the shadows, navigating terrain that had once been lush farmland, but was now barren under the Council's exploitation. Jones's mind churned as he led his team. Every move they made now was critical. Every mistake could unravel the fragile web of resistance. The breaking point had come days ago when Jones returned to the orbital station after his clandestine Earth visit. Counselor Ragazal had announced new measures: mandatory relocation of human populations into monitored zones, and the seizure of all remaining Earth weapons, relics of a past the Council sought to erase entirely. The announcement had been met with the hollow compliance the Council had come to expect, but for Jones, it was the final insult. The memory of his brother, of Earth's untamed beauty, of the fire he had seen in Cole's eyes, these were not things to be erased. They were the essence of humanity, and they would not be extinguished. Jones had acted swiftly, leveraging old contacts and calling in debts that spanned decades. Quietly, methodically, he began assembling a network. The first step had been freeing Cole, whose defiance had inspired Jones to believe rebellion was still possible. The operation had been risky, but the payoff undeniable. Cole's liberation had reignited hope among those who still dared to resist. As the group reached their makeshift base, a hidden bunker carved into the side of a forested ravine, Jones allowed himself a moment to assess. The men gathered around him were a mix of old soldiers, survivalists, and resourceful civilians. Each carried scars from the Council's oppression, their eyes reflecting a shared determination to reclaim their world. Jones addressed them in a voice that carried both authority and resolve. "We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for what makes us human. They think they've stripped that from us. They're wrong." The room fell silent as his words hung in the air. Then Cole stepped forward, his voice rough but steady. "What's the plan, General?" Jones's lips curved into a grim smile. "Adapt. Improvise. Outthink them. The Council sees themselves as superior because of their technology and control. But they underestimate us. Our creativity, our resilience. The first step was intelligence. Jones led reconnaissance missions to map alien installations, identify weak points, and gather resources. The Council's forces were methodical but rigid, their reliance on technology creating blind spots that humans could exploit. It wasn't long before the first skirmish erupted. A supply convoy bound for one of the Council's resource depots had been ambushed by Jones's team. Using nothing but salvaged explosives and precise timing, they crippled the convoy, seizing precious alien materials. The attack sent a ripple through the human resistance, proof that the Council was not invincible. But victories came with consequences. The Council's response was swift and brutal, deploying additional patrols and intensifying surveillance. Towns suspected of harboring rebels faced harsh reprisals, and the line between civilian and combatant blurred further. One night, as the group planned their next strike, Jones stood alone outside the bunker, staring up at the stars. He felt the weight of every decision pressing on his shoulders. Each life lost, each risk taken, was a gamble for the future. Hard to sleep, isn't it? Cole's voice broke the silence as he approached. Jones nodded. Every move we make feels like threading a needle in the dark. Cole leaned against a tree, his expression thoughtful. They think they've tamed us, but we're still here, still fighting. That's what they'll never understand. They can't break what's already been through the fire. Jones glanced at him, seeing not just a soldier, but a man who embodied the resilience of humanity. It was in that moment he knew the rebellion was more than a tactical endeavor. It was a testament to what humanity could endure and overcome. Their next mission was ambitious. Too ambitious, some argued. A key alien facility, housing advanced surveillance equipment, had been identified as a critical target. Destroying it would cripple the Council's ability to monitor rebel activity. The raid unfolded with precision and ferocity. Jones's team moved like shadows, exploiting their intimate knowledge of Earth's terrain to outmaneuver the alien guards. Explosives planted at key structural points erupted in a cascade of fire and debris, leaving the facility a smoldering ruin. But the cost was steep. 2 men were lost during the retreat, their absence a sharp reminder of the stakes. Jones didn't allow himself time to grieve. Each loss hardened his resolve. Each victory fueled his determination to see the fight through. By the time the group regrouped at the bunker, the mood was somber but resolute. Jones gathered them once more, his voice steady despite the strain. "We're not done. This is just the beginning. They'll come at us harder now, but we'll adapt. We'll find their weaknesses and exploit them. We will remind them who we are." As the men dispersed, Jones remained behind, staring at a map of Earth covered with markings of alien installations and resistance strongholds. The Council believed humanity was fractured, on the verge of submission. But Jones knew better. The fire of rebellion had been lit, and it would only grow. For every man and woman who joined the cause, the Council's grip on Earth weakened. This was no longer a fight for survival. It was a fight for humanity's soul, and Jones would stop at nothing to ensure it was reclaimed. Smoke curled lazily in the night air, the embers of a smoldering alien supply depot casting a faint orange glow over the surrounding forest. General Thomas Jones crouched low in the undergrowth, scanning the scene with keen eyes. His team had struck hard and fast, dismantling the facility in less than 10 minutes before vanishing into the wilderness. Now, the distant hum of approaching alien patrols signaled the inevitable response. "Keep moving," Jones whispered into his communicator. "They'll carpet the area as soon as they confirm the site's compromised." Around him, the team melted into the shadows, their movements silent and precise. Sergeant Sam Cole was the last to retreat, his hand brushing the detonator clipped to his belt. "That should hold them off," he muttered, a fierce grin cutting across his face. Jones nodded, his own expression grim. "Good work. But don't get cocky. They're adapting." He didn't need to elaborate. Over the past month, the Council's forces had grown increasingly aggressive. Patrols now moved in tighter formations, their once automated routines supplemented by biological personnel who could anticipate human unpredictability. The aliens were learning, and Jones knew it was only a matter of time before the noose tightened. Back at the bunker, the atmosphere was tense but charged with a strange electricity. Each successful strike bolstered morale, but the weight of their mounting casualties was inescapable. Around a makeshift table, Jones reviewed maps with his core team, his fingers tracing the lines of alien supply routes and strongholds. "This isn't enough," he said finally, his voice low but firm. We're hitting their infrastructure, but it's not crippling them. We need to go after their command network. Cole leaned forward, his brow furrowed. You're talking about high-risk targets, orbital installations, command hubs, places crawling with council elites. We barely have the resources to keep this up as it is. Jones met his gaze, unflinching. That's exactly why we need to strike. They're starting to see us as a nuisance, not a threat. If we don't escalate, they'll bleed us out through attrition. The room fell silent, the weight of Jones's words settling over the gathered men. Finally, one of the older soldiers, a grizzled survivalist named Becker, broke the silence. Then we hit them where it hurts most, Becker said, his voice rough but resolute. Show them that we're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting to win. The plan that emerged was audacious, bordering on reckless. An alien command relay deep within a fortified mountain range had been identified as a critical node in the Council's operations. Taking it out would disrupt communications across the region, buying the rebellion precious time to regroup and expand. The assault began under the cover of darkness, the team navigating treacherous terrain with practiced ease. Jones led from the front, his every movement precise, his focus unyielding. Behind him, Cole and Becker carried improvised explosives, their crude designs a testament to human ingenuity in the face of scarcity. As they approached the facility, the scale of the operation became clear. Towering pylons crackled with energy, their alien construction casting an eerie glow over the landscape. Automated turrets scanned the perimeter, their deadly precision a stark reminder of the Council's technological superiority. Jones motioned for the team to hold, his eyes narrowing as he studied the defenses. We'll need a diversion to draw the turrets, he said, his voice barely audible. I'll do it, Cole volunteered immediately, his tone leaving no room for argument. Before Jones could object, Cole was already moving, his live form disappearing into the shadows. Minutes later, a series of sharp explosions echoed through the valley, the turrets swiveling toward the source. Jones didn't hesitate, signaling the rest of the team to advance. They moved swiftly, planting charges at key structural points before retreating to a safe distance. The resulting detonation was deafening, the command relay collapsing in a cascade of fire and debris. Jones's heart pounded as he scanned the aftermath, searching for any sign of Cole. Over here, Becker's voice cut through the chaos, and Jones turned to see Cole limping toward them, a deep gash across his temple but alive. Don't look so worried, General, Cole said with a strained grin. I'm harder to kill than that. Their victory was short-lived. The Council's response was immediate and overwhelming, a wave of reinforcements sweeping into the region. The rebels were forced into a grueling retreat, their knowledge of Earth's terrain the only thing keeping them ahead of their pursuers. Back at the bunker, the toll of the mission was evident. Jones's team had succeeded in crippling the command relay, but the cost had been high. 3 men were lost, their absence a void that hung heavy over the survivors. We can't keep this up, Becker said, his voice rough with exhaustion. They're coming down on us harder with every strike. If we don't find a way to level the playing field, we're done. Jones's gaze swept the room, taking in the faces of the men who had entrusted him with their lives. They were battered, bruised, but unbroken. We've always been outnumbered, he said finally, his voice steady. But they've underestimated us at every turn. They think their technology makes them invincible, but it's their greatest weakness. We'll use it against them. He turned to Cole, his expression resolute. We need alien tech, and we need it fast. If we can repurpose their own tools, we can shift the balance in our favor. Cole nodded. The fire of determination rekindled in his eyes. Then let's get to work. As the men dispersed to prepare for the next phase, Jones remained behind, staring at the tattered map that had become their lifeline. The Council believed humanity's defiance was a flickering ember, one that could be extinguished with enough pressure. But Jones knew better. That ember had grown into a flame, and soon it would become an inferno. The rebellion was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. The storm raged over Earth's surface, lightning cracking against the night sky as though the planet itself was rebelling alongside its people. General Thomas Jones stood at the heart of the rebel encampment, his broad shoulders squared and his eyes burning with resolve. Around him, the remnants of humanity's defiance had gathered, battle-hardened soldiers, resourceful civilians, and survivalists who had thrived in the shadows. Tonight was the culmination of months of sacrifice and unrelenting resistance. Alien technology salvaged from countless skirmishes had been reverse-engineered and repurposed, giving the rebellion an edge it had never possessed before. Crude though it was, humanity's ingenuity had turned the Council's tools of control into weapons of liberation. "We've got one shot," Jones said, his voice cutting through the tension as his core team assembled around the holomap. The display flickered, casting jagged shadows on their weathered faces. The orbital command station is their nerve center. Take it out, and their operations across the planet crumble. They'll lose coordination, and we'll have the opening we need to take back our world. Cole leaned over the table, his brow furrowed. "It's a fortress, General. We're talking layered defenses, automated turrets, and a contingent of their best. Even with what we've got, it's a suicide mission." "It would be," Jones replied, his tone razor-sharp, "if we didn't already have a way in." He tapped the holomap, and the image shifted to display schematics of the station. "Their own arrogance is our key. They've been using Earth-based relays to maintain control. We've hijacked one of them, giving us a direct line to their network. We can infiltrate their systems, mask our approach, and get close enough to strike." Becker, standing at the edge of the group, let out a low whistle. "And here I thought you were just a blunt instrument, General." Jones allowed himself a rare smirk. Blunt instruments still get the job done. The plan was audacious, a two-pronged assault. While a decoy force would engage the Council's ground troops, drawing their attention away, Jones's strike team would infiltrate the orbital station. Using a salvaged alien shuttle, they would breach its defenses and deliver a crippling blow from within. As preparations commenced, the camp buzzed with activity. Men moved with purpose, loading weapons and securing supplies, their faces a blend of grim determination and fervent hope. Jones moved among them, offering quiet words of encouragement. He knew the weight of what they carried. Failure would mean annihilation, but success could mean freedom, not just for Earth, but for humanity's spirit. The launch was silent and swift. The salvaged shuttle, cloaked by the stolen alien codes, ascended into the stormy sky, its human crew tense but resolute. Jones sat at the helm, his hands steady on the controls. Beside him, Cole double-checked their weapons, his expression hard as steel. "This is it," Cole said, breaking the silence. "All the pain, all the losses. This is where we make it count." Jones nodded, his gaze fixed on the blackness ahead. "We don't stop until it's done." The station loomed into view, an enormous construct of alien design, bristling with weaponry and defenses. Jones's heart pounded as the shuttle slipped through its perimeter, the stolen codes holding under scrutiny. As the docking clamps engaged, the team moved into action, their movements synchronized and precise. The interior of the station was a stark contrast to the chaos of Earth, sterile, cold, and humming with alien machinery. Jones led the charge, his rifle sweeping the corridor as they advanced. The first wave of guards fell swiftly, their movements predictable against the rebels' ferocity. But the deeper they pushed, the fiercer the resistance became. The corridors echoed with the sounds of combat, gunfire, the hiss of alien plasma weapons, and the shouts of human defiance. Jones's team moved like a storm, their crude yet effective tactics overwhelming the Council's disciplined ranks. They reached the station's central control hub, a cavernous chamber dominated by pulsating alien consoles. Jones didn't hesitate, moving to plant the explosives that would obliterate the station's command functions. "General," Cole's voice rang out, sharp with urgency. Jones turned to see a towering alien figure stride into the chamber, its crystalline armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Counselor Ragazal. You, Ragazal hissed, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. You have orchestrated this chaos. Humanity's defiance ends here. Jones stepped forward, his weapon trained on the counselor. You underestimated us. You thought you could break us, but all you've done is make us stronger. Ragazal sneered. Primitive arrogance. You cannot win. The confrontation was sudden and brutal. Ragazal moved with unnatural speed, his alien strength throwing Jones across the chamber. But Jones rose, bloodied but unyielding. Around them, the battle raged as the team held off the remaining guards, buying their leader precious time. Jones engaged Ragazal with a mix of calculated strikes and sheer tenacity. The alien's superior strength was undeniable, but Jones's adaptability and relentless determination turned the tide. With a final, decisive blow, Jones drove a salvaged alien blade through Ragazal's chest, the counselor's crystalline form shattering in a cascade of light. Breathing heavily, Jones turned to the consoles, where Cole was securing the last of the explosives. We're done here, Jones said, his voice steady despite the chaos. The team retreated to the shuttle as alarms blared, the station's automated systems struggling to contain the damage. As they broke free of the station's gravity well, the explosives detonated, a brilliant explosion ripping through the alien construct. Cheers erupted among the crew, but Jones remained silent, his gaze fixed on the fiery debris falling toward Earth. This was a victory, but it was only the beginning. Back on the surface, news of the station's destruction spread like wildfire. The Council's forces, disoriented and leaderless, faltered under the renewed pressure of humanity's rebellion. For the first time in years, the people of Earth felt the stirrings of hope. Jones stood amidst the ruins of a once proud civilization, his shoulders heavy with the weight of what was still to come. The fight was far from over, but humanity had taken its first step toward reclaiming not just its planet, but its place in the galaxy. As dawn broke over the battered landscape, Jones turned to Cole, his voice resolute. This isn't just our fight anymore. We've shown them what we can do. Now it's time to show the galaxy. Cole grinned, the fire of rebellion burning bright in his eyes. Let's finish what we started.